Hey, so welcome to the channel. I'm Harland D. White, and in today's video, although we are a third of the way through the month of June, I will be providing a May wrap-up. May marked 1 year that I've been on a debt-free journey, so I'll walk through where I'm at with that and give you my plan to pay off the remainder of my debt. Then I'll jump into where my money was spent in the month of May. I will give you a bit of a spoiler alert. I spent way too much in crypto right before the crypto market tanked. And then lastly, I will provide an update on my net worth. So definitely stay tuned and let's jump into it. You just got to get started. All right, and I have one quick announcement before jumping into the rest of the video, and that is I've recently started a brand new podcast called the Harland D Podcast. The first episode aired last Sunday, and I plan on having weekly episodes that air every Sunday. The goal of the podcast is to talk about all things personal finance with the goal to normalize conversations around money and to really learn from others' successes and failures when it comes to personal finance. In the first episode, which I'll link below, I had a good friend of mine, David, come on and talk about how he was able to pay off over $30,000 in debt over the last year and a half or so and become completely debt free except for his mortgages. So definitely check that out and subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of future video podcasts as well as more content on this channel about my own personal finances. All right, that is the announcement. Let's jump into the rest of the video. All right, so we'll start off by jumping into my debt tracker. This is the tracker that I just updated a few days ago, so it is still up to date. The way that the tracker is organized is that I have the description of my debt, the original debt amount, how much I've paid or settled my debt for. If you're interested in how I was able to settle some of my debts, I'll link it in this video right here. And then lastly, my remaining debt. Now, as you can see here, I've been able to pay off all of my debts except my 401k loans. I just paid off my last credit card debt last paycheck, so I was very excited about that. So the total amount of debt that I have remaining is $5,631. And that puts me at about $44,038 that I've been able to pay off since May of 2020. So it's been just a little over a year that I've been able to pay off that amount of debt. Now, if we were to jump over to this other tab that I put together a few days ago, and this is where I'm actually planning on when I will be out of debt. So based on my calculations, and if I was able to put $800 towards my debt each paycheck, I should be able to get out of debt by September 3rd. And so that's only, a few months away. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I may see if I can sneak that up to August, but we will definitely see. All right, so that is my prediction for getting out of debt if I stay on track. And let's jump up here to YNAB, or You Need a Budget. And this is a tool that I use for budgeting, tracking my spending, as well as running reports on my spending. So in today's video, we'll focus on the reports. And specifically, I will start off with my spend in the month of May. The total amount that I spent was $8,319.12. This was a little bit lower than, the last few months because I had a little bit less income. But if you've been following my channel, normally the most amount of my money goes towards paying down debt. But in this case, it actually went towards my family category at 21%. And that's primarily because in May I was in Illinois visiting and it, for a couple weeks. So the expenses were a little bit more in that particular category, as well as in my food category where 10% of my money went. Now, the next area that I spent more money in is my investment category, which I will get back to, but 19% of my money went there. And then in this hidden category, this is actually my credit card number 3, and that's where $1,450 went towards paying off my final credit card. Now, if you know or follow my channel, one of my goals is to pay at least $1,500 towards debt each and every single month. However, in this particular case, I paid off this, and then I also set aside $150 into a savings account to put towards my 401k loan debts, because with my 401k loan debts, I have to pay them in lump sum payments to pay them off completely. So I will be stacking that money until I have enough to pay off those particular debts. Now, in terms of my investments, again, if you were to go back to my last month's budgeting video, I definitely did not put $1,200 towards crypto to budget with, but I got a little bit out of control finding money that I can put into crypto. And so as a result, I put in a lot of my money right before the the crypto market took a little dip backwards. And so I could have just waited and, bought things at a lot cheaper price if I could predict the future. However, lesson learned, just be patient and consistent in my approach to investing. However, as a result of that dip, what I did manage to do was take advantage of a wash sale rule. Now, this is not financial advice or accounting advice, but I did see it in Xena's video, which I'll link in the description below, where, a wash sale is kind of like tax loss harvesting, where you're able to sell off a losing asset and then apply those losses towards any gains that you had in that particular year. However, with stocks, you have to wait a full 30 days before you can rebuy that particular stock. However, this rule does not apply with crypto. So technically, you could lose $20,000 on your Bitcoin investment, sell it off, and then buy it right back, and then apply that $20,000 loss towards any other gains that you had in the market for that particular year. So that is something that I did take advantage of. We'll see if it's helpful later in the year. We'll see how many gains that I actually can apply that towards. But this was my confession for my crypto obsession. Now, I am a big fan of crypto, and I do think that the whole crypto is in a big investing phase, but eventually it'll get to a utility phase where it will go from, will actually be used in day-to-day life. So I do think there's quite a ways before we get there, but I am interested in following what happens in this particular category. All right, so next we will talk about my net worth. All right, so here's my net worth. I first started tracking my net worth in the December timeframe, and I've maintained or been able to continue to increase my net worth each and every single month. Again, a large part of that has to do with what happens in the stock market, what happens in the crypto markets. But if we were to look at December, my net worth was $23,000. January is $27,000. February it was $30,000. March it was $44,000. April, $53,000, and then in May, it was almost $56,000 as far as my net worth. And at the same time, I've been able to increase my assets each month as well as reduce my overall debts. So the progress there is definitely promising. And that, I believe, is all that I wanted to cover in this particular video. All right, and so that is the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you're interested in more content like this, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos. And of course, if you like the video, helps me out tremendously. Until next time.